Hey everyone, it's Sarah from the Camera Exchange, and today I'm here with Ruben Cruz from Westcott. He's going to run us through the FJ wireless system.
Hi, good to be with you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, so the FJ wireless system is an ecosystem of 3 strobes. We've got a 400 watt second strobe, a 200 watt second strobe, and an 80 watt second speed light. It's completely wireless insofar as it's DC operated. There are AC adapters available for the system.
Okay.
And of course, it's built on a radio system, a 2.4 gigahertz radio system. So the entire system is anchored by the trigger system.
Okay.
And what makes this system unique is it's the only system on the marketplace that uses a single trigger for 6 different camera brands. So you've got
different camera brands.
So you've
Awesome.
got Canon, Nikon, Sony, Olympus, Panasonic, and Fuji.
Wow. Okay.
Now we do have a dedicated trigger for Sony, and we can get into the nuts and bolts as to why we have that. And the same thing with the FJ80. The FJ80 also is available in a multi-brand and a dedicated Sony. Let's start with the big boy, the 400 watt second. It's the most powerful system on the market for that category. It's got a recycling time that runs from a half a second to 0.9 seconds.
Wow.
And that's from the range of power. It's a 9 f-stop power range. Now that's a decimal system that we've got listed there, but the system has the ability to actually switch to fractions.
Oh, okay.
And the reason for that is that a lot of the manufacturers' speed lights will show fractions, and so for people making that leap from a camera brand speed light to our system, they can switch over to fractions if that's what's easier to use.
Sure. Make that transition a little more smooth.
In terms of interface. Fastest 400 watt second system on the market. The entire ecosystem has about 150 degree Kelvin shift in color. The other thing about the 400 watt second, because of the recycling time being so fast, is that powers 1 through 4. Remember we said there's a 9 f-stop energy range? Powers 1 through 4 can keep up with a camera that's capable of doing 20 frames per second. Really nice feature, actually, especially for those photographers that are shooting rapidly and need to be able to capture action. The entire system uses a lithium polymer battery instead of a lithium ion battery, and the reason for that is that higher capacity of shots and faster recycling time. Like anything, there's a pros and cons to the system. It's going to be a bigger battery than most 400 watt second systems on the marketplace, but for our customer base, they appreciate longer lasting battery, faster recycling time.
Sure. That's going to be more important than the size of it.
Yep.
All right.
It does use a Bowens mount, so it's pretty standard in terms of the ability to put on modifiers, soft boxes. Pretty standard, the Bowens mount.
You want to move on to this guy, FJ200?
The FJ200 obviously is a 200 watt second system, obviously a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter, still a pretty powerful unit at 200 watt seconds. The FJ200 is a round head unit, and what makes round head nice is that soft boxes, when you're using a soft box on this, it spreads the light better. So most of the systems on the marketplace you'll see that have rectangular heads, those are designed to throw light further out. But if you're using it with soft boxes like we're using here, you want the light to spread and take advantage of that space inside. So that's why it's a round head out of the box. The recycling time for this guy is 1.3 seconds. The other thing is that the interface is really nice. If you looked at that FJ400 and the FJ200, it's got a black background with white and green and blue colors. So the interface is a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody these days has a smartphone and they're used to having a little bit more of a robust screen to look at. And so this is a lot easier to see. I wanted to go back to this real quick.
Sure.
The 400 is an AC-DC battery, which means that the thing that actually charges the battery is the actual AC adapter.
Oh, okay.
So that makes it nice because you don't have to switch out the battery for an AC adapter. Okay. In terms of the 200 actually has a battery that you pull out, and then an AC adapter that looks like this, only it terminates to a cord. All of the same features on the 400 are available on the 200. There's also another feature that the entire ecosystem has, and that is called freeze mode. And freeze mode is a way to be able to control the duration of the flash.
Okay.
And when you employ the freeze mode, you will get an additional set of fraction numbers displayed on the screen that shows you what the duration of the flash is based on the power. For somebody wanting to do something like tabletop photography where they're doing like food shots, I'm sure you've seen it, where you kind of flip the food up and it freezes, midair.
Yeah.
Freeze mode is what you want to use for that, because that's going to tell you how short the duration of that flash is.
And how about our little guy over here?
And then the speed light, the 80 watt second speed light is also a unique piece in the marketplace. It's the only touchscreen system on the marketplace. People are used to smartphones, touching screens. So you literally just have to touch the thing that you want to change and then use the arrows to change it. Now the speed light has the trigger system, which we'll break this down here in just a second, but that trigger is built into the speed light. So the speed light could be used to control other FJ80s or the entire ecosystem, 400 to 200.
Cool.
The other thing that's kind of neat is that we've built in a system that we can control all Canon branded speed lights. So think the EL1, the 600 RTs, the 430 RTs. We can control them in TTL, high-speed sync, and manual. And so you can use this to do that as well.
Nice.
Or if an end user already had it and they wanted to get into more powerful flashes, they could integrate their Canon speed lights with the use of this system.
Great. So a lot of flexibility, it sounds like. Yeah.
Now, because the trigger is built in here, there are different modes in here. Hitting that little house button shows you host mode, client mode, and speed light mode. Speed light mode would be if it's on the camera and it's the only source of light. So think somebody doing event photography, quinceañeras, weddings, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs. They're walking around, they're just kind of taking pictures like a newspaper person, you know?
Yeah.
Host mode will show a screen that has all of the groups on it. So in host mode, this flash is going to be on the camera, but it's also capable of not just firing, but controlling the rest of the ecosystem.
Nice.
That's going to be more helpful to somebody doing weddings and events,
Sure.
because a lot of the times they're going to be walking around taking pictures. They want this to flash, but they're going to be using room lights, maybe a 400, to make sure that the room is not dark. And in client mode, it's assumed that this is off camera, and the trigger's on the camera, and this is now controlling this.
Wherever
this
that
is the
is.
client, and this is the host. So quite a versatile flash.
Yeah.
Also a 1.3 second recycling time, 80 watt seconds, still very powerful flash, battery operated. And the entire system, by the way, also does high-speed sync, which if you're living in Texas or anywhere in the Southwest where there's a lot of sun, you're going to want to, at some point in time, take your client outside. People doing senior photography are all often doing that, or event, right?
Yeah.
And what that simply allows you to do is balance flash with ambient light, and allows you to shoot on a shutter speed that exceeds the top sync speed of a camera. This will allow you to actually shoot up to 1/8,000th of a second on your shutter.
Wow.
So they all can do high-speed sync. The entire system is also TTL. So for somebody who's maybe migrating from no flash to flash and they're intimidated,
Yeah.
TTL through the lens metering means it's essentially in a program mode.
Yeah.
You set the mode to TTL. It says TTL on there. And essentially the flash will make an adjustment in the power based on the camera settings that the end user makes.
Right.
So you still have the ability to make some changes in 1/3 stop increments, up 3 stops, down 3 stops. And then of course, like I said, the anchor of the system is the trigger.
Yeah.
The FJX3 comes in 2 flavors. It comes in the M, which stands for multi-brand, and then we've got a dedicated S for Sony. For people that are familiar with the history of this product, not that old, December 2019, we only had the one trigger, the FJX2. And it sufficed for all camera systems. However, with Sony, it required the use of this adapter for full compatibility.
Gotcha.
So if I was shooting in a manual mode, I wouldn't need this. I can go onto a Sony and shoot manual only. If I wanted TTL on high-speed sync, then I would add that adapter.
And this was on the older model.
That's correct. Now, we still have this adapter in the system, but we've, at this point, introduced a dedicated Sony that eliminates the use of that.
Great.
And the reason for that is that maybe you've got a Canon, but you've migrated to a Sony. You don't have to go back and buy a Sony trigger. You can just buy this $20 adapter, and now you're Sony ready. And then the last piece in the entire line is what's called the FJXR wireless receiver. And what this is exactly as I said, it's a wireless receiver that receives a signal from our trigger. It terminates to a 3.5 millimeter jack. And the value of this is that there are a lot of systems on the marketplace that have that port. And if you want to integrate that system in here, all you need to do is put that into the port of that existing flash, and it will receive a signal from our trigger,
Nice.
thus firing it. The entire system has a bunch of magnetic, so if I go back to the 400, the included 5-inch reflector is magnetic, and it comes with a series of color corrections. So you've got CTO, window green, a diffusion, and then this little empty one is if you're using gels, you know, cut sheets, you can just use this to actually hold it in
them on there.
place.
Nice.
But essentially what you've got here is a magnetic system that allows you to
It's so easy. It's
color
great.
correct on that.
And this is sold separately or as an
The
accessory
filters actually come with,
with the 400?
that's
Great.
correct. We've got 1 light kit, 2 light kits, so if you bought a 2 light kit, you'll get 2 sets.
Cool.
And then in terms of the FJ80, this is also a magnetic head, and there's a lot of accessories, domes, barn doors, grids. I just brought one to demonstrate the fact that it simply sits on there like that.
That's so cool.
And that's just an additional diffuser to soften the spread of the light. Everything is also firmware updatable by the end user. And having been in this industry long enough and done cameras, this is the easiest thing to do. You literally download it, drag it in, eject,
Boom,
and you're
boom.
done.
Great.
So
Yeah, that stuff can be kind of intimidating.
it
but-
can be very
Yeah.
intimidating, and it's very simple to do. So the best thing to do is when somebody buys the system is to register their product on the website. That automatically gets them onto a mailing list for firmware updates so that when one's available, the end user is notified.
Great. You don't have to think about it.
And everything is warranted for 1 year from the
Okay.
date of purchase, and everything is serviced in our offices in Ohio.
All right, Ruben, thanks for coming in and talking to me about Westcott's FJ wireless system. If you guys want to learn more or buy one for yourself, head to camerax.com.
My pleasure. Thank you, Sarah.
Sure.